So that alone is like really far-fetched in my mind, that he would have an attempted assassination on Trump. He would actually be wounded, and it would be that close to hitting him in the head. But it still missed, and he's walked away perfectly fine. And so my first question was, could it be that he actually didn't get shot in the ear? And I started to zoom in on those pictures of his ear, and it's really hard to see any actual damage to the ear. You see a bunch of blood, kind of almost coagulated looking on the top of his ear, and of course, a couple streaks down his face, made for that such a heroic pose. And again, like, people asked, if you have an active shooter shooting at the president, is the Secret Service going to allow the president to stop in that moment for that camera shoot and make that heroic, defiant fist pump where he said over and over again, I guess, fight, fight, fight. It looked like, to me, it looked like he was pissed off, right? Angry. So that's what my first impression was, like he was dropping the F-bomb, but okay, maybe he said fight, fight, fight. Fist in the air, American flag flying overhead, blood across his cheek. I'm sorry guys, but I have a hard time, like, just blindly accepting this kind of Hollywood version of how the world works. Like, I say this and I'll say it again, if the deep state, if all of these spook agencies that are specialized in the art of political assassination, right? If they really wanted Trump dead that bad, he would be dead, guys. This isn't Disney, this isn't Hollywood. This is the real world, guys. It's not that hard for them to take care of somebody. And so, if Trump, they wanted him dead, he'd be dead. That's my argument. Could this have possibly been a crazy guy? See, I don't even think on that level. I don't think that the deep state wants to endanger their asset, right? I mean, he's got Secret Service protection. They won't give that to RFK Jr., will they? If he was a threat, why would they give him Secret Service protection? Why wouldn't there be somebody in the Secret Service that would take him out, right? Was it a real bullet that hit Trump's ear? What evidence do we have besides the miracle shot? And people have made the point that the angle of that bullet was too low to hit him in the top of the ear. So, oops, little mistake there. Again, you just keep questioning the narrative, and a lot of these questions just kind of pop up, more and more of them. So how hard would it have been for Trump? Let's just say, here's my theory. This is just hypothetical. I'm not saying this is on high from God or anything like that. I'm not a prophet. Trump had a blood packet tucked behind his ear. The shots go off. Trump pops that blood packet. Now Trump has blood on his ear. That's one scenario. Trump grabs for his ear, has a little bit of blood on his hand, falls to the ground. One of the Secret Service guys, smears a little extra blood on his ear because he's completely covered. Nobody can see him at that point. Is that more likely than a bullet just whizzing past his head and just barely nicking his ear to the point where you can't even see damage? I've looked at close-ups of his ear. You can't even see actual damage to his ear other than a bunch of blood. I'm just playing devil's advocate, guys. I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just saying there's a lot of different possibilities in the narrative that we're being given, and we should always question, especially on the right. Even when it comes to Trump, we should always question the narrative, the official story being put out for our mass consumption that is now, I don't even know why we need an election at this point. Just stick Trump in the White House, right? I mean, that's the mindset of everybody on the right. And another theory is that, RFK will just kind of fade into obscurity now. He was becoming a true threat. He was polling in some polls at 19. I mean, a huge threat, this independent outsider, by all measures, by all appearances. They would have had to include him in the next debate, possibly. But now, after this, I think Trump is just going to be more powerful than ever, more popular than ever. And again, what's he going to be able to get away with once he's in office? Without question. Because fellow patriots like me who question, the golden-haired Messiah, I guess we're Antifa now, right, guys? We're enemies of the state. We're potential shooters now because we don't like Trump. And I'm not saying that there weren't real shots fired. Was this guy? Oh, they're looking at turkeys now. Okay, we're making another little detour, tourist, right? Yeah, I'm not saying there weren't real shots fired. Was this guy a mentally ill patsy? This has been demonstrated time and time again in the past, where the FBI sets up a mentally ill patsy. Was this guy a patriot that thought he was doing something good for his country? Was he instructed just to take a few shots into the crowd? Was he dumb enough not to think that he would get his head blown off in doing so? I don't know. But we've seen crazier things in the past. I know it looks really real, guys. I know it looks really convincing. But I've learned to question everything. I mean, after 9/11, when they in broad daylight brought down 2 towers, 3 towers actually, to count Building 7, and kind of rewrote physics, rewrote science. The first time in history when not 1 but 2, 3 even buildings collapsed due to a fire, steel frame buildings. When they can pull off something like that, and they're that evil to kill, over 3,000 American citizens in the process, and some, was it million Iraqis that followed, you can hold nothing against these people, right? They will do anything in order to cement power, in order to grasp, in order to finally attain, in order to finally implement their New World Order. And if that means, Trump being their greatest asset to convince the American people to go along with whatever kind of agenda Trump is going to lead in these next 4 years. 1 casualty, it's a pretty small sacrifice, right? In their mind, in their satanic quest for complete control of the world. And I know this, it just flies in the face of everything that you want to naturally believe, right? That Trump is the outsider, that Trump is this heroic figure that's standing up against all odds. Even God and his angels now are capable of diverting bullets from Trump's head in order for him to fulfill his mission. I can just imagine some of these evangelicals and some of these false prophets that talk about, how Trump is God's David, and how Trump is going to save America and bring America back to God. Yeah, he might, but it's going to be a false revival.